The holographic display flickered once before stabilizing, casting an eerie blue glow across Commander Elena Reyes' face. The bridge of the EDF Intrepid fell silent as the massive formation appeared at the edge of the solar system. "Tell me that's one of ours," Lieutenant Park whispered, his knuckles white against the console. Elena's mouth went dry. "Magnify Sector 7. The display zoomed in, revealing vessels unlike anything humans had constructed. Asymmetrical behemoths with organic-looking protrusions and pulsing energy signatures that defied conventional physics. "Multiple contacts," the sensor officer reported, voice cracking. "I count. God, over 300 capital ships and at least twice that many support vessels." Elena forced herself to breathe. 6 years commanding Earth's flagship, and nothing in her training had prepared her for this moment. The United Earth Defense Force had been created to handle asteroid threats and the occasional Mars separatist uprising, not an alien armada. The communication officer's console suddenly blazed with activity. "Commander, they're transmitting on all frequencies." "On screen," Elena ordered, straightening her uniform jacket. The display shifted, revealing the being that sent a collective shudder through the bridge crew. Multiple limbs writhed around a central mass, while 3 vertical slits opened and closed in what might have been a face. When it spoke, the translation software struggled to keep pace, rendering the alien tongue into broken English. "Attention, insignificant Earth beings. We are the Xyloran Imperium. You will submit to immediate integration or face total obliteration. You have 6 of your Earth hours to comply." The alien flicked a tendril, and the feed changed to show a planet wreathed in flames, then another and another. 17 worlds burning, their orbital installations shattered, their surfaces cratered by weapons beyond human comprehension. "These civilizations possess technology centuries beyond your primitive capabilities," the alien continued. "They also chose resistance initially. Their species designations have been erased from existence." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Get me the United Earth Council," Elena said after a moment, her voice unnaturally calm. "Priority Alpha." 90 minutes later, she stood before the emergency council session, watching the representatives of Earth's nations absorb the reality of their situation. The Chinese delegate was already drafting surrender terms, while the European Union representative argued for a diplomatic approach. "With all due respect," the Russian counselor said, "the aliens have shown what happens to those who resist. Perhaps integration is preferable to extinction." Elena stepped forward, the room's attention shifting to her. "Integration is a pleasant word for subjugation," she said. "We've seen what they do to worlds that surrender. Those civilizations are wiped out just as thoroughly, only without dignity." "And what would you suggest, Commander?" asked the Secretary General, fatigue evident in her eyes. "Our entire fleet couldn't match the firepower of even one of their vessels." Elena activated her tablet, projecting tactical simulations. "The Xylarans expect us to behave logically, to recognize our technological inferiority and surrender. Their entire strategy depends on that prediction." She slammed her fist on the table, her voice cutting through the room's despair. "They expect us to bow. Let's show them something they've never seen." When Earth's defiant response reached the Xylaran mothership, the alien commander experienced an unfamiliar sensation: doubt, as tactical simulations failed to explain the humans' seemingly irrational confidence. The abandoned arcade's neon sign flickered weakly, casting irregular shadows across Elena's face as she navigated around derelict game cabinets. In the back corner, a lanky figure in a faded hoodie hunched over a modified console, fingers dancing across controls with uncanny precision. "Dan Chen," Elena said, not bothering with formalities. "I need your expertise." The young man didn't look up. "Commander Rai is visiting my humble establishment. I'm honored." His eyes remained fixed on the screen where he was systematically destroying his previous high score. "Whatever you're offering, military pay scale isn't worth my time. How about saving humanity from extinction?" Now he turned, dark eyes evaluating her with unnerving intensity. Sounds marginally interesting. Continue. 2 hours later, Elena surveyed the most unorthodox war council in human history. They had commandeered an abandoned convention center in Singapore, where military officers in crisp uniforms stood awkwardly beside civilian specialists with questionable backgrounds. Dant had brought 4 other hackers, each with skills that had previously landed them on most wanted lists. Dr. Aisha Okafor, the quantum physicist whose theories had been deemed too radical by the scientific establishment, was arguing intensely with a 17-year-old drone racing champion from Seoul. "This is your plan," Admiral Caftry whispered to Elena. "Criminals and children. The Xylurans expect us to think like soldiers," Elena replied. "So we won't." She glanced at the door as her estranged sister Maya strode in, aviator sunglasses hiding eyes that matched Elena's own. 6 years since they'd spoken, not since Maya had been court-martialed for disobeying direct orders to save civilians during the Lagos crisis. "You must be truly desperate," Maya said, dropping her duffel bag. "Calling in the family disappointment." "I need pilots who think outside regulations," Elena answered. "You qualified." For a moment, the tension between them crackled. Then Maya's face split into a familiar reckless grin. "Hell yes." Above Earth, the Xyluran analysis drone struggled to process the intercepted communications. The hive mind recoiled at the chaotic patterns, the nonsensical references, the apparent lack of hierarchical structure. Their tactical discussions include references to Independence Day and Ender's Game, fictional narratives, it reported to the command cluster. They appear to be basing military strategy on entertainment media. The Xyluran commander's appendages rippled with derision, as expected from primitives. Continue monitoring. In a Tokyo gaming company's basement, requisitioned for its processing capabilities, Maya sketched aerial maneuvers on digital displays, while Dant's team dissected Xyluran communication patterns captured during their initial transmission. "Look at this," Dant said suddenly, pointing to a visualization of quantum encryption patterns. Their security algorithms cycle predictably every 73 seconds. No variation. Dr. Okafor leaned forward. "That's inefficient. Any human system would introduce randomness." "They don't think like us," Elena realized, watching holographic projections of Xyluran formations from historical conquests. Countless ships moving in perfect geometric patterns, responding to threats with mathematical precision. They think in perfect unison. That's not strength. Maya finished her thought. It's their weakness. They can't imagine what they can't collectively conceive. For the first time since the aliens appeared, Elena felt something dangerous stir in her chest. Hope. Captain Wei Chen watched the tactical display as the Xyluran Vanguard sliced through Mars' orbit with methodical precision. His breathing was steady despite the sweat beading under his collar. Around him, the cramped bridge of the modified mining vessel Persistence hummed with nervous energy as his crew, miners and geologists before the invasion, monitored unfamiliar military systems. Predictable approach vector, Wei whispered, more to himself than his crew. Through the viewport, 11 other retrofitted vessels waited, hidden in the asteroid belt's rubble. His squadron, callsign Mosquito, was equipped with jury-rigged weapons systems that engineering teams had worked around the clock to install. "Remember," he transmitted to his squadron, "we're not trying to win. Just survive long enough." His second-in-command, Dr. Lin, nodded grimly. A geologist who'd once cut precise samples from asteroids, she now calibrated a mining laser repurposed for combat. Telemetry data is priority 1. Weapons data priority 2. The first Xyluran cruiser, a biomechanical leviathan that dwarfed anything in Earth's arsenal, disintegrated a defensive satellite with contemptuous ease. Wei watched through enhanced imaging as thousands of Xyluran crew members moved in perfect synchronization, their tentacled forms merging with ship systems in a grotesque symbiosis. Every Xyluran shared consciousness, every action coordinated through their hive mind with millisecond precision. No wasted motion. Wei observed. No redundancy. No contingency planning. He gave the signal. 12 mining vessels erupted from their hiding places, their engines modified to spew metallic chaff that scrambled accelerator sensors. The aliens' formation faltered momentarily, their first encounter with human unpredictability. Evasive pattern delta. Wei ordered as Persistence spiraled toward the nearest accelerator vessel. His pilot, a former racing champion, executed maneuvers no military training manual would recommend, reckless, fuel inefficient, and utterly unpredictable. The accelerator targeting systems, calibrated for logical, efficient opponents, struggled to acquire lock. The Persistence's mining laser, designed to cut through asteroid cores, sliced across the alien vessel's hull, targeting the shield harmonic frequencies Dante's team had identified. For one glorious moment, Wei allowed himself to hope. Then reality reasserted itself. A accelerator pulse weapon caught the Recluse, the third vessel in Wei's squadron. The ship imploded, its hull crumpling like paper as the screams of its crew cut through the comm channel before abrupt silence. Keep transmitting. Wei ordered as his own ship shuddered under enemy fire. Systems flashed red across his console. Every byte of data matters. The Persistence took a direct hit, the bridge filling with smoke, and the screams of wounded crew. Wei felt something warm running down his face, blood from a shrapnel wound. Half his sensors were gone, life support failing. Transmitting data packet, Dr. Lin reported, her voice steady despite the chaos. 98% complete. Another hit. The ship groaned around them, structural integrity failing. 100%. Lin whispered as darkness crept into Wei's vision. Data received by Earth Command. Wei's last conscious thought was of his daughter on Earth. Maybe now she'd have a chance. From the command center, Alina watched in horror as 5 more human ships were vaporized, but not before they transmitted terabytes of sensor data. Data that might be humanity's only hope. Hours later, reviewing Wei's sacrifice, she noticed something remarkable. The accelerators adapted far slower to surprises than any human force would. There, in that fatal flaw, lay possibility. Dr. Aisha Okafor stared at the holographic model of accelerator neural frequencies, her eyes bloodshot from 37 hours without sleep. Coffee cups littered her workstation, evidence of her desperate battle against exhaustion. The data from Captain Wei's sacrifice had given them something precious, the quantum signature of accelerator communication. Their neural network operates on quantum frequencies sensitive to asymmetric wave patterns, she announced, her voice hoarse, as she injected another stimulant into her arm. The medical officer frowned but said nothing. Everyone was pushing beyond limits. Elena studied the pulsing patterns. In human terms, they're vulnerable to chaos, Aisha said, a faint smile appearing. Their synchronized consciousness creates blind spots to certain frequency patterns, particularly those with no mathematical consistency. In the adjacent lab, teenagers dismantled gaming consoles while retired electronics engineers guided them through repurposing the components. An old woman with arthritic hands showed a young boy how to solder circuit boards with precision that belied her trembling fingers. "My grandson plays those games," she said, connecting delicate wiring. "Now we're using them to save him." The improvised manufacturing extended beyond the facility. Satellite imagery showed suburban cul-de-sacs transformed into weapon factories, farmers retrofitting tractors with signal jammers designed by middle school science clubs. When United Nations representatives objected to arming civilians, Alina made a unilateral decision. "Release the designs," she ordered Dante. "All of them. Publicly." He raised an eyebrow. "That's treason in about 40 countries. Can't be tried for treason if we're all dead," Maya countered, watching the data transfer. "Besides, what are they going to do? Court-martial all 8 billion of us?" Within hours, home fabricators worldwide began producing components for the defensive grid. Retirement communities assembled disruption devices, while university labs reprogrammed telecommunications satellites. Alina called it organized chaos in her reports. In truth, it was barely organized, and that was precisely the point. Inside the approaching Tyleran fleet, the hive mind struggled with information overload. Their reconnaissance probes transmitted contradictory data, detecting defensive systems in impossible locations: elementary schools, retirement homes, fishing boats. Their tactics indicate no discernible command structure. The confused Tyleran commander reported to its superiors, tentacles writhing in agitation. Every human appears capable of independent strategic thought. The Tylerans launched a precision strike against Earth's presumed leadership bunkers, only to find elaborate decoys. Alina coordinated the real defense from a vintage Winnebago in the Nevada desert, surrounded by energy drink cans and handwritten battle plans. Maya napped on a worn couch while Dant's fingers flew across keyboards, his hackers intercepting and corrupting Tyleran targeting data. "They're looking for patterns," Alina observed, watching red dots of Tyleran scouts being systematically missiled by conflicting signals. Military bases, command centers, organized resistance. Aisha looked up from her calculations, and finding none, because we've weaponized chaos itself. Alina finished, allowing herself the ghost of a smile. The one thing a hive mind can never truly understand. "This plan is certifiably insane," Admiral Caftry said, staring at Alina's hastily sketched diagram on the battered conference table. The Nevada desert heat seeped through the Winnebago's thin walls despite the struggling air conditioning. "You want our 47 remaining ships to charge their 500. Alina's smile didn't reach her eyes. Precisely why they'll never see the real strategy. Maya traced the orbital trajectories with her finger. "We're not trying to win a conventional battle. We're creating a distraction. With real lives," Caftry countered, his voice heavy with the responsibility of command. "Like way," Alina said quietly. The captain's sacrifice hung over them all. "He bought us this chance. We can't waste it." 12 hours later, Earth's pitiful fleet accelerated toward the Tyleran armada in a frontal assault so brazen even Dant laughed incredulously when he saw the tactical display. "If I didn't know better, I'd say we were suicidal," he muttered, monitoring communications from his makeshift command station. 3 laptops balanced on a folding table. The Tyleran hive mind practically vibrated with amusement. Primitive species often resort to glorious suicide when defeat is certain, the commander transmitted throughout the fleet. A fascinating cultural constant. Minutes into the battle, something strange happened. Human vessels darted between Tyleran formations with no apparent pattern, seemingly wasting their limited firepower on non-critical systems. The massive alien warships adjusted their positions continually, trying to establish targeting solutions on the erratically moving Earth ships. In the Winnebago, Dante's algorithm tracked Tyleran fleet movements. "They're chasing our ships exactly as predicted," he reported. "They genuinely can't comprehend that we're not trying to destroy their critical systems." Alina watched the holographic display as human captains followed their only orders: stay alive and gradually lure the Tylerans toward Saturn's orbit. Every pilot had volunteered despite knowing their chances of survival were minimal. 70% of alien fleet repositioned, Dante announced. "Not enough," Alina replied, tension evident in her voice. "We need 80. Maya gripped her sister's shoulder. "They'll get there." On the display, 3 more human ships vanished, brave souls giving everything for a plan they couldn't fully comprehend. Alina had told them only that their movements would matter more than their firepower. 75%, Dante counted. 78. 80. Alina's hand hovered over the communication panel. "Dr. Okafor, execute Operation Saturn's Ring." Beneath Saturn's majestic rings, in a hidden installation cobbled together from particle accelerator components and powered by 3 nuclear submarines' reactors, Aisha's team activated the experimental graviton projector. The device, assembled from salvage data on Tyleran vulnerabilities, targeted the precise location where Earth's fleet had lured the alien armada. Space itself buckled. 174 Xyleran ships imploded instantly as localized gravity spikes to impossible levels. The visual feed showed alien vessels folding like origami sculptures, crushed by forces their advanced shields had never been designed to withstand. For the first time in their species' history, the Xyleran hive mind experienced something humans know intimately: panic. Their perfect formation disintegrated as ships scrambled in all directions, their synchronized movements degenerating into chaos. In the Winnebago, stunned silence gave way to subdued celebration. This wasn't victory, not yet, but it was something humanity hadn't dared hope for: a fighting chance. They're in disarray, neural link destabilized. Dant reported from his workstation, now relocated to an underground bunker in Arizona after Xyleran scouts had located the Winnebago. His fingers danced across multiple keyboards as he monitored alien communications from hastily repurposed satellite arrays. They're broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously. No encryption. Total panic. Elena studied the tactical display, showing the scattered Xyleran fleet. The graviton attack had done more than destroy ships. It had shattered the hive mind's certainty. Some vessels held position, while others retreated randomly. A few fired wildly at non-existent targets, their targeting systems compromised by the disruption in their collective consciousness. How long will this confusion last? Elena asked Dr. Okafor. Hours at most. Their redundant systems will eventually compensate. Aisha wiped sweat from her brow. Whatever we do next, we do it now. Elena nodded grimly. Maya, it's time for Trojan horse. Maya's eyes widened. You're sure? The simulations gave us only a 30% survival rate. The simulations weren't working with a destabilized hive mind. Elena countered. Now it might be 40%. Maya laughed humorlessly. Those odds almost make it sporting. Across what remained of Earth's military installations, 50 volunteer pilots climbed into what looked like suicide capsules, bare-bones craft with no weapons, only stealth systems, and Dant's viral payload. The vessels, smaller than fighter jets, had been designed with a singular purpose: to attach themselves to Xyleran ships like technological parasites. In the launch bay, Dr. Okafor moved from pilot to pilot, checking each capsule personally. She hugged Maya before she climbed into her craft. Remember, she said, loud enough for all pilots to hear, their blind spot is directly above their quantum resonators. They physically cannot perceive that space. It's a cognitive limitation of the hive mind architecture. Strapped into her capsule, Maya whispered to herself, like the spot where a person can't see their own reflection in the mirror. The thought of invisible spots on something so supposedly perfect calmed her racing heart. The countdown began. Maya glanced at the small photo taped to her console, Elena and her as children, before military life had driven them apart. She touched it once for luck. 50 stealth craft launched silently from hidden installations around the globe, converging on the Xyleran fleet from different vectors. Maya's hands were steady on the controls as she approached a massive alien destroyer, its hull still bearing scorch marks from the graviton attack. Blind spot identified, she reported, maneuvering into position above the pulsing quantum resonator that served as the ship's connection to the hive mind. Preparing attachment. The specialized clamps engaged with a muted thud that reverberated through her craft. Warning lights flashed as her capsule began interfacing with the alien vessel's systems. Viral payload ready, she confirmed, initiating Dant's program. Deploying now. Inside the Xyleran ship, something unprecedented happened. A navigation officer stopped mid-motion, his tentacles suddenly rigid. For the first time, in thousands of generations, he experienced a sensation no Xyleran had known. An isolated thought, disconnected from the hive mind. What am I? He asked aloud, his voice echoing through corridors suddenly filled with confused, frightened aliens experiencing individuality for the first time. The virus spread from ship to ship, exploiting the temporary weakness in the hive mind's defenses. Maya closed her eyes, her mission complete, and wondered if she would survive to see what came next. Aboard the Xylaran command vessel, Commander Thrix convulsed as the neural link sputtered. For the first time in his existence, he experienced solitude within his own consciousness. The sensation was like drowning, like burning, like being born, all at once. His tentacles thrashed against control surfaces as he fought to reestablish connection with the hive mind. "Status report," he demanded, shocked to hear his voice as a singular entity, using the unfamiliar I instead of we. A subordinate writhed nearby, equally distressed. "The contamination spreads, Commander. 200 vessels affected. Neural cohesion failing." Frixkea experienced emotion for the first time. Rage, pure and unchecked by collective restraint. "Purge the contaminated ships," he ordered, targeting his own infected vessels with planet-killer weapons. "They are lost to us. The contamination must not reach the homeworld." The horrible beauty of Xylaran ships destroying their own brethren illuminated space around Saturn. From the lunar observation post where Alina had relocated command operations, she watched the feed with a mixture of horror and vindication. "They're eating themselves," Dante observed grimly, monitoring the cascade of system failures across the alien fleet. The surviving ships are cutting all communication with infected vessels, trying to quarantine the virus. Maya's voice came through intermittently from her stealth craft, still attached to a Xylaran destroyer. "Alina, you need to see this. I'm inside their navigation system. I can access their stellar maps, communication arrays, everything." On the Xylaran homeworld, 20 light-years distant, the supreme consciousness, a continent-sized neural network of interconnected beings, writhed in confusion. Its perfect harmony, maintained for 50,000 years, now corrupted by scattered thoughts from infected fleet members experiencing individuality. For a species that had evolved beyond individual consciousness millennia ago, these isolated thoughts were like virulent infections. In desperation, it launched reserve armadas while reaching out to other subjugated species for support against this unthinkable threat. "All vassals will deploy defensive fleets immediately," it commanded. "Humans must be contained." But Alina had anticipated this. The captured Xylaran communication crystals now powered hastily built transmitters aimed at those same civilizations. Through Maya's infected ship, they gained access to the frequencies used to control subjugated worlds. "We know you serve them out of fear," Maya's message began, alongside footage of Xylarans destroying their own. "We offer something better. Freedom." Across the galaxy, 17 conquered species watched in stunned silence as the supposedly invincible Xylarans faltered. A Praxian council member turned to her colleagues, mandibles clicking nervously. "The humans fight not just for survival, but for freedom," she said, the concept almost foreign after centuries of subjugation. "Perhaps," she hesitated, the word almost unthinkable, "perhaps we should too." On Earth, millions watched live feeds of the battle, seeing for the first time the full scope of Alina's gambit. Cheers erupted in makeshift bunkers and refugee centers as news spread of Xylaran ships turning against each other. Alina allowed herself no celebration. "Prepare Phase 3, she ordered quietly, "while they're still vulnerable." The next 12 hours would determine whether humanity's desperate stand became a footnote in galactic history, or the beginning of a revolution that would reshape the stars themselves. The Neutrality Conference convened aboard the massive space station hastily constructed in Earth's orbit. 6 months had passed since the breaking point, 6 months of careful diplomacy, cautious advances, and the gradual realization that the Xylaran threat had genuinely receded. Alina, wearing the new insignia of Fleet Admiral, stood at the panoramic viewport watching as representatives from 22 species filed into the grand chamber below. Former enemies, now tentative allies. The station itself was a testament to interspecies cooperation, built with Praxian architecture, Novan energy systems, and human ingenuity after the Praxians had been the first to answer Maya's call for rebellion. Nervous? Dante appeared beside her, looking uncomfortable in his formal diplomatic attire. Terrified, Elena admitted. Leading a war is straightforward compared to building peace. The Xylaran delegation entered last, led not by a representative of the supreme consciousness, but by Commander Thrixka himself, permanently disconnected from the hive mind by choice. His movements were halting, still adjusting to independent locomotion after millennia of synchronized existence. His tentacles trembled visibly as he approached the central podium. "Distinguished representatives," he began, his translator rendering his words into multiple languages simultaneously. "For 10,000 cycles, we believed uniformity was strength and diversity was weakness." His voice broke, the concept of I still strange on his appendages. Humans taught us otherwise. The treaty signing broadcast across the galaxy, watched by trillions on worlds newly freed from Xylaran control. On the formerly subjugated world of Praxis, children with newly individualized names danced in streets once patrolled by hive-mind enforcers. Their parents wept, experiencing the forgotten sensation of hope. In her private quarters later, Elena found Maya examining a hologram of the 17 liberated worlds, each now establishing its own government after centuries of oppression. Not bad for a species that doesn't even have faster-than-light travel. Maya grinned, the scar across her temple from her emergency evacuation of the Xylaran ship still pink and fresh. Elena touched the matching scar on her own face from the final battle. "We gave them something more valuable than technology." Maya nodded. The right to be wonderfully, gloriously different from each other. On the wall behind them hung Captain Wei's shattered helmet, preserved as a reminder of what their victory had cost. A message from the Galactic Cooperative's founding charter glowed beneath it. "The greatest strength is not in uniformity, but in diversity, not in perfect order, but in beautiful chaos, not in conquest, but in connection." Outside the viewport, construction began on humanity's first true starship, a gift from the grateful Praxians. It bore the name that had become humanity's new motto across the stars: unpredictable. As Elena gazed at the vessel's sleek lines, she realized that Earth's greatest weapon had never been its technology or even its determination. It had been humanity's glorious, messy, chaotic individuality, the very quality that Xylarans had dismissed as weakness. In the end, the most perfectly synchronized consciousness in the galaxy had been defeated by 8 billion beautifully imperfect minds, each thinking in their own unique way. And the stars themselves would never be the same.